Have you ever heard of the Curse of the Pharaohs? The chilling tale that anyone who dares to disturb the tomb of an ancient Egyptian king will face a swift and terrible doom. It's a story that has captivated us for a century, spawning countless movies, books, and spooky campfire stories. But is there any truth to it? Or is it all just a masterfully crafted piece of fiction? Today, we're going to dig deep, separate fact from folklore, and uncover the real story behind one of history's most famous curses. It all started in 1922. The world was electrified by the news that British archaeologist Howard Carter and his sponsor, Lord Carnarvon, had discovered the nearly intact tomb of the boy king, Tutankhamun, in Egypt's Valley of the Kings. This wasn't just another discovery. It was the archaeological find of the century. The tomb was packed with thousands of priceless artifacts, golden treasures, and of course, the magnificent sarcophagus of King Tut himself. The world watched in awe as Carter's team slowly cataloged and removed these wonders. But then, just a few months after the tomb was opened, tragedy struck. Lord Carnarvon, the man who funded the entire expedition, died suddenly in Cairo. The official cause was an infected mosquito bite that led to blood poisoning and pneumonia. But the newspapers of the day had a much more sensational theory. They claimed it was the Pharaoh's curse, unleashed upon the man who had disturbed his eternal rest. The media frenzy was immediate and intense. Journalists, including some very famous writers like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, jumped on the curse bandwagon. Doyle, being a firm believer in spiritualism, publicly stated that he believed an evil spirit, an elemental created by Tutankhamun's priests, was responsible for Carnarvon's death. Suddenly, the public wasn't just interested in the treasures. They were terrified by the curse. The story grew more elaborate with each telling. Rumors spread like wildfire. It was said that a clay tablet was found in the tomb with an inscription that read, "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king." Another popular tale claimed that at the very moment of Lord Carnarvon's death, all the lights in Cairo inexplicably went out. Back in England, his beloved dog, Susie, was said to have howled and dropped dead at the same time. It's the stuff of horror movies, right? The problem is, most of these sensational details just aren't true. There was no clay tablet with that specific inscription. While some protective formulas were found, none matched the famous Swift Wings quote. The citywide blackout in Cairo never happened. It was a localized power failure at the hospital, which wasn't that unusual at the time. And the story about the dog? That was likely an embellishment added later to make the story even spookier. But the media kept the narrative going. As the years went by, every misfortune that befell someone even remotely connected to the Tutankhamun expedition was attributed to the curse. For example, George J. Gould, a wealthy American financier, visited the tomb in 1923 and died from a fever a few months later. Curse. Prince Ali Kamal Fahmy Bey of Egypt was shot and killed by his wife in 1923 after visiting the tomb. Curse. Sir Archibald Douglas Reid, the radiologist who X-rayed Tut's mummy, died of a mysterious illness in 1924. Curse. On the surface, it looks like a compelling pattern. But when you look at the facts with a critical eye, the entire theory starts to fall apart. Let's do some real investigation. The most important person in this whole story is Howard Carter, the man who actually led the excavation and was the very first person to enter the tomb's burial chamber. If the curse were real, you'd expect him to be its first victim. But Carter lived a full life, dying of lymphoma more than 16 years later, in 1939, at the age of 64. That's hardly a swift and terrible doom. In fact, a scientific study published in the British Medical Journal examined the survival rates of the Westerners who were present when the tomb was opened. It looked at 44 individuals who were in Egypt for the discovery. The study found that of the 25 people who were actually exposed to the curse by entering the tomb, Their average age at death was 70 years old. This was completely normal for that era. There was no statistically significant evidence to suggest they died prematurely. So, if there was no curse, what explains the deaths that did happen, like Lord Carnarvon's? Well, science has some pretty plausible explanations. One leading theory involves something a lot less supernatural: toxic mold. Ancient tombs, sealed for thousands of years, can be perfect breeding grounds for dangerous bacteria and fungi. Spores from molds, like Aspergillus, could have been present in the tomb. When inhaled, these spores can cause serious, and sometimes fatal, allergic reactions or infections, especially in someone with a weakened immune system. Lord Carnarvon was already in poor health from a car accident years earlier. A lung infection caused by mold spores from the tomb could certainly have complicated his recovery from the initial insect bite. Another scientific explanation points to the air itself. The sealed environment of the tomb could have contained pockets of toxic gases, like ammonia or hydrogen sulfide, released from the decaying organic materials inside, including the mummy itself. While a brief exposure might not be deadly, prolonged work inside the tomb could have had cumulative health effects. But perhaps the most powerful explanation isn't biological at all. It's psychological. It's called the nocebo effect, the opposite of the placebo effect. If you strongly believe something will harm you, your mind can actually cause physical symptoms. The constant media hype and the spooky atmosphere surrounding the tomb could have created a powerful sense of fear and anxiety in some individuals. This chronic stress could have weakened their immune systems, making them more susceptible to ordinary illnesses. So why did the myth of the curse become so popular and enduring? Well, it was the perfect story for its time. In the 1920s, after the devastation of World War I, people were fascinated with spiritualism and the occult. The idea of an ancient, mystical power reaching out from beyond the grave was incredibly compelling. And let's be honest, it's just a fantastic story. It combines adventure, mystery, ancient kings, and a touch of the supernatural. It's far more exciting than man dies from complications of a mosquito bite. The ancient Egyptians themselves did believe in protecting their tombs. They placed inscriptions and spells intended to deter tomb robbers. These weren't so much curses in the Hollywood sense, but more like warnings, threatening divine punishment or describing the horrible things that would happen to desecrators in the afterlife. They wanted to protect the deceased's body and their possessions for their journey into the next world. But the idea of a magical force killing off archaeologists in the 20th century was a modern invention, fueled by sensationalist journalism. In the end, the Curse of the Pharaohs is a classic example of how a few coincidences, when amplified by the media and a public eager for a good story, can create a legend that lasts for generations. The real treasure of Tutankhamun's tomb wasn't a curse. It was the incredible window it gave us into the life and beliefs of the ancient Egyptians. The science points to natural causes: mold, bacteria, and the power of suggestion, rather than supernatural revenge. The story is a thrilling piece of fiction, but the reality of archaeology and history is in many ways even more fascinating. So next time you hear a story about the Pharaoh's curse, you'll know the real secret behind the mummy's tomb. It's not about ancient magic, but about modern myth-making. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Arras Connected, where history comes alive. Your support helps us uncover more incredible stories from the past. See you in the next video.